Welcome to iPad Pros, the show all about using your iPad to be productive and get work done. I'm Tim Chen, host of the show.
This is, without a doubt, we talked about Mastodon. This is, without a doubt, my favorite social network. It's so simple, but I love movies. I love watching as many movies as possible. And I think that this does a great job. You just follow people, and you can see what they're watching. So whenever I see one of my friends post a 5-star review of a movie that I haven't seen, I'm like, ooh, interesting. So I can add that to my watch list. I can see what's popular with all Letterboxd users. And so that kind of gives me an idea for new stuff. But I feel like it's hard to keep track of what movies are coming out and especially what smaller movies are cool and worth your time. And I think Letterboxd just helps me do that.
Welcome back to our episode of iPad Pros. Back in the podcast is Matt Birchler from birchtree.me and the YouTube channel A Better Computer. You can hear past episodes with him on episodes 74, 92, 114, 123, 131, 143, and 150. In this episode, we touch on a bunch of different topics, including Mastodon, RSS, the Sony Inzone M9 monitor, subscriptions, Matt's move to Todoist from Things 3, Letterboxd, and the Adobe's voice enhancement that you'll hear for the first time in this episode. I am actually processing both Matt's and my tracks with this tool. And to close out the episode, we go totally off topic with a spoiler-filled discussion of The Last of Us, both the game and the first episodes of the new HBO series, and it's a great discussion. We are both huge fans of this story and game and show, and I had a lot of fun diving deep into one of my favorite stories of all time. Before jumping into that final topic, I will share where you can find Matt and can promise that that is the only topic found in those last 15 minutes, and we don't have any tangents into any other topics. As a reminder, you can support this show over at patreon.com/iPadPros or by subscribing in Apple Podcasts. Before jumping to the episode proper, I want to share a quick audio demonstration of Adobe's speech enhancement versus Apple's new voice isolation feature, which works as an audio plugin. For this sample audio, I'm recording to the iPhone 14 Pro built-in microphone. As I try to test with my good microphone, the difference was not nearly as noticeable coming from a good sound source like that. For the sample, I'm going to read a paragraph from the M2 Pro press release for the new Macs Apple announced on Tuesday, January 17th. So here's the original audio for the sample. Apple today announced M2 Pro and M2 Max, two next-generation system-on-a-chips that take the breakthrough power-efficient performance of Apple Silicon to new heights. M2 Pro scales up the architecture of M2 to deliver an up to 12-core CPU and up to 19-core GPU, together with up to 32 gigabytes of fast unified memory. Here's the Apple voice isolation version of that audio. Apple today announced M2 Pro and M2 Max, two next-generation system-on-a-chips that take the breakthrough power-efficient performance of Apple Silicon to new heights. M2 Pro scales up the architecture of M2 to deliver an up to 12-core CPU and up to 19-core GPU, together with up to 32 gigabytes of fast unified memory. And here's the Adobe enhancement version of that audio. Apple today announced M2 Pro and M2 Max, two next-generation system-on-a-chips that take the breakthrough power-efficient performance of Apple Silicon to new heights. M2 Pro scales up the architecture of M2 to deliver an up to 12-core CPU and up to 19-core GPU, together with up to 32 gigabytes of fast unified memory. I hope this has been an interesting demonstration of the post-processing tools now rolling out from Adobe and Apple. In some cases, it really can save and rescue audio that would otherwise be unusable. With that, here's my discussion with Matt. Enjoy. Welcome back to the podcast, Matt.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here. So, hodgepodge of different stuff I wanted to chat with you about. And I guess most timely is the whole Twitter Mastodon stuff. Mainly because the third-party clients kind of got shut down and they were back up for a little bit in read-only mode. Now they're back down again, except for Phoenix on iOS, I think is one of the few that I can read at least from. But that's to say that my Twitter timeline as a result of the clients shutting down has basically resulted into like no activity there except for Wario 64 for all the gaming deals. That's pretty much. And then I also continue to use Twitter for the push notifications for Relay FM for their live broadcasting, because sometimes when they say 1 o'clock for recording time, it's like 1:20, and I can't just be waiting around on the broadcast app and play over and over again until it goes up. So
yeah.
those are my two uses right now of Twitter.
Well, that's not a lot.
No.
It's degraded quite a bit, I would say, from probably a few months ago.
Yeah, I'd say so. Do you have any uses of Twitter right now, or are you entirely moved over?
No, I looked back recently, and the last time I posted something to Twitter that wasn't, hey, just a reminder, I'm over on Mastodon, was back in mid-November.
Okay,
so
it's been a bit.
I deleted the app, haven't been there. I've opened it like in a web browser maybe once or twice, but yeah, it's just not a thing I was interested in doing anymore, so moved over.
Yeah, there's some DMs I'm still doing there because that's my only way of contacting certain people. So that's the transition period is hopefully more people move over to Mastodon, which I was skeptical upon the service initially, and it seems to be doing a pretty good job. It's still a bit confusing as far as the whole server bit. I don't know. Do we want to do a primer 101 on Mastodon and how this all works?
Yeah, I mean, we could. I definitely shared your skepticism of it and concern with the sign-up process, and like everyone is confused, and then people on Mastodon are like, it's not confusing, and I'm like, people are confused. Whether you think it's confusing or not is irrelevant.
Yeah, one of the confusing things is you're in Safari or whatever, there's a link to a post on Mastodon. I hit reply. It's like sign with this server, sign in over like that. That's one confusing part. Even if I am signed up already and have apps, if I'm using on the web, it's like, yeah. They need to fix that or improve that somehow to know that you're assigned into another Mastodon instance when you're looking at another one. But the gist, like the thing that helped me kind of understand how they all work and like all the Mastodon servers connect to each other is just think of it like email. You can sign up for Gmail, you can sign up for Yahoo, you can sign up for iCloud, and you have a different experience. But at the end of the day, you're sending emails to anyone you want. And there's no reason an iCloud user can't send an email to a Gmail user, and it's all fine. But you kind of have to choose which one you want. Yeah. I think, and the clients do a good job when you're adding someone, if you're following them, to like just hide the garbage of the...
Yes, yeah, for sure. Like the double @ signs, your your name at yourserver.com or whatever. Yeah, it's definitely still confusing, but more of the nerds seem to have made the jump, which is great.
Yeah.
For people like you and me.
How are the, like, Wario 64 and other people that use Twitter to broadcast stuff on I don't know if it's automatic nature, but is hooking into Mastodon a thing quite as it was with Twitter at this point?
It is, but it's not super easy.
Okay.
Like most places, you can just go to like auto post to Twitter as like a checkbox or something in whatever you're posting there.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually doing this with my blog. So when I post a blog post, I have an automation that sends it to my Twitter account, my like automated account that I don't touch or log into, but some people like to follow there. And then it also posts to Mastodon now.
Okay.
But I had to do this with Zapier, and I had to write to the API myself as a webhook. Yeah. Not like just choose Mastodon and then like send it over. So I'm using a third-party automation service, and I'm writing to an API, which is not ideal.
Gotcha. Yeah, because WordPress, I checked, that's what my website's on, and still just Twitter is like, and then I just manually copy out the tweet and put it in Mastodon, and then if there is an @ of that account, I'll try to find it and tweak it a bit to make it more, but it's still still a process. Yeah.
It's still a process, yeah. And I can't figure out how to get like images to come over in this request. So like if I have a featured like image I want to have in the post, it's not there. So it's a whole thing. But it'll presumably get better as more people
and
stick around.
One of the cool features is the whole spoiler tag thing with the Mastodon. John Siracusa was able to post about The Last of Us, And I noticed on Twitter, he just posted the joke about opening drawers with Joel. But Mastodon, he went into more depth of his feelings as on the show, as we'll talk about at the very end of this show. But that's a cool feature where you can, post stuff that you otherwise would feel bad about posting or not want to post.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite features.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing because there's like a culture of like what you put a content warning on
Yeah, some of it's
Mastodon.
weird. It's like this didn't need a content warning. That's like, come on.
Yeah. Or like you'll post something that you think is innocuous and someone will be like, excuse me. But like it used to be a thing where like if you did anything about Twitter on Mastodon and you didn't put it behind a content warning, people would yell at you. And they yelled at me because I was like, Twitter sucks. And they're like, I don't want to see Twitter in my timeline. And I was like,
it's like, I don't know.
Mute the word? I don't know.
I don't know. The term snowflake is a bit, people don't like it sometimes, but some of it feels a bit snowflakey where you're going to melt if, you see something on it.
Yeah. But the use case for like being able to talk about The Last of Us like openly.
Yeah. Or I could do like an Avatar 2 like post and go full out versus just like overall impressions. Like I know you do reviews of like movies. You could have like a first one as an overall, and you could even on Mastodon do a more spoilerific version of that if you wanted to.
That's true.
Yeah.
I would never spoil a movie in a review, but I I could.
Analysis
as a policy.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
But like it's awesome that I could. Like I always felt like, because you never know when people are watching. Like sometimes if it's a show that's airing every week, you can feel a little more okay about like sharing your thoughts. But like if it's a Netflix show or an older thing, you're like, have people seen it? Like maybe you couldn't binge it this weekend. Maybe you're watching it. Like you don't know when you can say something. So it's nice to be able to, just be able to say something and have the people who know or won't be spoiled be able to see it and kind of have a conversation with them. And it masks the whole conversation with people who reply to you as well. So someone isn't going to like see a reply.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I'm not sure if all the clients do this, but you get to tell the client or the service, this is a Last of Us spoiler. This is a political thing that might be bad or something. You get to kind of frame it how you want it to frame it, which is nice.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you say I want to put this behind a content warning, you get to put whatever text you want as like the thing people will see, and then they can use that to click in and see more details if they want.
So what are your favorite clients up until now? I mean, most of them are in beta that I've been using.
It's a weird thing. The best clients are in beta right now.
Yeah.
So I think 3 have stood out to me. I'm curious what ones are landing with you. So I think the clear winner right now is Ivory from
Absolutely.
Tapbots.
And I am on that beta. It's wonderful.
It's a hot commodity.
It's Tweetbot, but that was the thing. There was like a propagation error within Mastodon, so I had the alert set to go this time, and so it's not as real time as Twitter in some instances, which showed itself when people are eager to get into the beta.
Ivory is the new app from Tapbots. It's effectively Tweetbot, but for Mastodon, but it's, I don't know why, but it feels more joyful. There's a sense of like whimsy about it that I really like, and it displays things just really, really beautifully. And it seems to be there's like a track people go through with Mastodon. They're like, oh, this is kind of confusing. It's kind of janky. Then they install Ivory and use it, and they're like, I love Mastodon. I'm never going back. So Ivory is a huge, huge benefit to the service, I think. And I know they're working really hard to get it out to the public relatively soon. And I think people will pay basically whatever for it.
Yeah.
Because it's great. It's incredibly great.
And then Mammoth is the other one that I found really good, especially for just notifications. As weird as that sounds, they're so quick about notifications. Ivory, do you know, has Ivory implemented notifications? I don't seem to get anything as far as that from them yet.
Yeah, Ivory does have notifications, and they are absolutely real time for me.
They are. Okay. I might have accidentally turned those off, so maybe I'll look into that.
I've definitely done, because I'm curious. I have like the website open, Mastodon.social open, and my client open, and I can see like Tweetbot or Ivory get the notifications exactly at the same time. So it's pretty nice for me.
I like it Mammoth, like on the on one of the tabs, it's like all activity. I can have mentions, likes, reposts. So you can really filter out stuff. I do like the all activity kind of thing. I think Tweetbot or Ivory does this as well, where this is a part of Mastodon where your kind of at screen can also become more of like looking at who's following you and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They also have, they're the only place I know that does this, but Mammoth also has a way to schedule posts for later.
Ooh, did not notice that.
So from the compose screen, there's like a 3 dots to show more options, and there's a schedule option, and you can schedule it for any time you'd like in the future.
Oh, look at this. We can collaborate via SharePlay. Did you see this?
Oh, no, I didn't.
This is wild.
Collaborate on the greatest post of all time.
I hit it. It's not doing anything. I was going to send you a collaboration thing, but it doesn't seem to work. But that's kind of an intriguing. Collaborate on over iMessage or whatever. Now the other thing about Mastodon that was initially a little weird is the whole direct messages and who gets to see your content aspect of it. Some apps do a good job of having just a direct messages tab like you're used to in Twitter, but others are just like you get to just choose if it's a DM or not, and when you're replying, hopefully you're looking at the client properly to know if it's private or not.
Yeah, that's definitely a weird thing because they all happen in your timeline. It's not like it's not like direct messages. You have to go to a separate part of the app. Although, like you said, some apps like kind of have a separate view for them. But yeah, it's just the privacy of the replies.
Yeah.
Is if you reply to someone, you can reply publicly and have everyone see it, or you can reply only for them, and then that's a quote-unquote DM in the system. So I honestly don't understand them fully. Again, Mastodon has some confusing things, but yeah, it's definitely a shift in what you're used to for DMing people.
And it's really nice having polls that actually function in third-party apps. That is a lovely thing.
And every third-party app has all the features of the service.
Yeah.
Like as far as I can tell from talking with devs, it sounds like there's no advantage the official Mastodon app has over what chatbots can do, what anyone else can do.
Not terrible. That's what it started with. It's like, this isn't terrible. On iPad, the Ivory really, I think, is the best one. Like Mammoth, I'm not a fan of the panel structure, especially with resizing that window and how that all plays out.
Okay.
But yeah, iPhone seems to be a much, like the developers understand that much better. But yeah, Ivory is the way to go on iPad, I think.
Yeah. The third one that really resonates with me is an app called Mona, which is also in beta.
I've heard about this one, yeah.
So this is from the developer of Spring for Twitter.
Yeah.
Which is like the power users Twitter app, right. I think.
Yep, for sure. It was one of the last Twitter apps to go down, I think.
Yeah. It was holding out for a little bit. But yeah, it's really customizable. So Ivory, I think, just has like a great experience, like just on its own. Mona, I'm going to alternate these back and forth unintentionally, but Mona is a little less pretty, but it has tons of customization options. You can like tweak the UI to your heart's content and get like just the stuff you want. And one thing I really like about it, I think you mentioned it with Mammoth too, is notifications. So this is like the only client. It was the same with Twitter, where like one thing I liked about the Twitter app is if you got like a tweet with 20 likes, instead of it being 20 rows in like the list of notifications, it's one row that says these 20 people liked it. That's great. Such a nice quality of life improvement.
Is Mammoth the one that is also building their own server to make sign up an easy thing?
I think so, yeah.
Which is honestly a really smart thing to do.
They should all be doing it, yeah.
They should be.
They should do it. They should charge a subscription that pays for their server costs, and you get to use the app. And
yeah,
I don't know,
that'd be an interesting model.
Like, I think that's a good way to justify the subscription.
And you're able to move your username elsewhere if you want to move. You just don't get to keep all your old posts, which I guess I wish there was a way to move that stuff too, but I understand it at the same time.
Yeah. And I don't. Do you know, is there a way to change your username on Mastodon after you've created it?
I've not checked.
Because I know you can move without losing people, but basically, I'm regretting the username I selected 6 years ago when I signed up originally, and I want to change it.
What's your username?
So I'm at Birchtree on Mastodon Social.
Gotcha.
And I got it because I could, but honestly, I would prefer at Matt Birchler.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm sure that's available, but then I'd have to. I don't know if I can migrate from one
to the other
on the same server.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not going to do it live on the air.
No. Has your relationship to RSS and other things like that changed with the downfall of Twitter? Like, are you using RSS more than you had in the past?
I am an outlier, I think, in this regard. I've never stopped using RSS.
Look at you.
I routinely get hundreds of RSS articles in my feed every day, and I have been doing that since like 2004.
Amazing.
So you all just came back to where I've always been.
Yeah. What's your app of choice these days?
So for me, it's Reader everywhere.
Reader 5
iPhone,
they're up to now?
Yeah, whatever. I like literally whatever the new one is, I'll pay for it because it's like $5 and I get years and years of use out of it.
Yeah.
And I use it because it's super fast. And I, like I said, subscribe to a lot of feeds. So I have like 200 to 300 articles probably that hit my feed every day. So I'm not reading everything I subscribe to. It's more of a triage system.
Okay. I was wondering about that because that's one problem I had with RSS back in the day is you have to be very careful which feeds you subscribe to.
Yeah. I know some people who use like Unread is the other like really popular one in kind of the Apple enthusiast space. And like whenever I talk to someone who uses Unread, in most cases they're following many fewer things than me. But like I do like a volume game, like give me everything.
Yeah.
And then I'll triage it down and save things to a read later app and, kind of read the things I actually want. But I subscribe to like The Verge and they post like 40 posts a day.
Yeah.
And I subscribe to Ars Technica and a couple news sites and like it's a busy feed.
Yeah, there are different approaches. Like there's the approach I've heard, I think Mark Orman was sharing, like do the low volume sites that you wouldn't check regularly as one way to use RSS in a non way that's not going to be like a big Twitter feed kind of.
So that's definitely useful, but also like I like following the higher volume ones. I have a folder in my reader called Firehose, which is where like The Verge goes. And it's just like here's all the tech news, and it just lets me like just really quickly catch up on what happened without like relying on someone in my feeds to post it.
It'd be interesting if an RSS client would look at all your stuff you're subscribed to and summary, there are 20 posts about this one thing. I don't know what kind of AI would be used to do that.
So this would be great. Back in the day, it hasn't been maintained for many, many years, but there was an RSS reader called Fever, and it assigned a temperature like rating to each link. And so like if like 10 of your sites all linked back to the same blog post, that post would like rise to the top of your page, and so you'd be able to see that. It didn't always work, but like I think you're right, like this seems like a ChatGPT thing made in heaven. Like here's all the news that came into my feed today, summarize it for me, or like show me the topics that were covered. Like that's actually exactly what I would do.
I think that there's potential in something like that for sure.
Interesting. So if any RSS developers who are listening to the show, that's a feature idea for sure.
So external displays are now a thing for iPad users, and I've gotten the display you did. I actually didn't know you had this until I started looking up reviews, and yours popped to the top. The Sony Inzone M9, the monitor that has a little PS5 stand looking thing in the bottom, and it's like optimized for PS5, which is great because I moved my PS5 away from the TV, which I never have use of anymore. It's a family TV at this point. And it's down at the desk, yet it's a lovely thing, and it looks amazing on iPad. Like, I was upgrading from like a cheapo, like $200 27-inch monitor to this kind of, it's a premium monitor now. It's great, and it feels it.
And still half the cost of the studio display.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, so it's a 4K 27-inch monitor with 96 local dimming zones, which I was looking up the iPad Pro local dimming zones, and that has 2,500 zones and 12.9 inches. which kind of blows my mind because I don't notice the blooming that I would expect with that when I'm using it versus the amount of blooming I see on the iPad. Like, it seems comparable. So they're doing a good job with the 96 zones is all I'm saying.
I think they're doing a good job. Yeah, I occasionally see it if I'm looking at a black screen with like a white mouse cursor on Windows. That's the only time I see it. But like, most of the time it looks really, really nice. I bought this several months ago and I'm super, super happy with it.
Yeah, I got it back when it was on sale for the Black Friday period. It was $100 off. I had quite the saga. I got a refurbished one that was like half off, and that one had all sorts of issues. It had like green dots all over it. Then I got a different one that was also open box, and that one had an issue where half the screen wouldn't display on like one of the HDMI ports. And then then at that point, there's a sale for the exact same price as the open box one, brand new, works great. So lesson learned with displays: go new.
If you can,
if you can, yes. But you took it off the stand. It's got kind of a bizarre stand. I kind of like it, but yours is just on an arm, right?
Yeah, the best upgrade I made, I think, to my desk was getting a monitor arm for like $20 on Amazon, and I like it a lot. It gives me a ton of space left, but yeah, I don't know. You're using the stand?
I am.
Sounds like?
I kind of like the look of it next to the PS5. It kind of looks like they belong together a little bit. And once things are hooked into the monitor, it's got a lot of hard to reach ports at the bottom, but once they're in there kind of thing. And I do like the fact that it does elevate, it rises and lowers a bit, so I will take advantage of moving it up and down on that stand. And I do like the fact that it's kind of a tripod, so you can still put stuff directly underneath the monitor versus some stands which would have the feet closer to the front, so it's nice that they're kind of in the back.
Yeah, you can stick little stuff under there if you want.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an HDR monitor that looks great for PS5 games, but also great on the iPad. Like a substantially different experience going from that to
Yep. Well, yeah, and it does 144 hertz. So I suspect the iPad doesn't do that. It probably only does 60 for the iPad, but with the Mac plugged into it, you get the full 144, and it looks
nice.
It's very, very nice.
Yeah, the HDR content from the iPad looks great in this thing.
Nice.
And what other things? There are speakers, but I never really use them because
wouldn't know. Yeah.
No.
Literally any speakers you can plug into your computer are better.
Yeah. And I like the little knob in the back. There's a little joystick to control the settings, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. Overall,
it looks nice, looks classy. It's got a light on the back if you really want.
It does, yeah.
But
yeah, this is a good alternative, as you said in your review, to the Studio display from Apple at half the cost, and in many specs, I think much better, especially for gaming. But I think in other specs, it is still up
totally
there.
Just whatever you like, what you need for a monitor is different from person to person, and like the Studio display only accepts Thunderbolt input.
Right, I could not hook up a PS5 to that thing.
Literally can't work with the PS5. Literally will not work with my PC that I connect to it. Like, so it's a no-go. I've even been like, could I justify?
Is there some kind of adapter to hook it into? Not really.
Yeah. Yes. It sounds like a Rube Goldberg situation if you really want to get it to work. And even that it's
Pro Display XDR is the same way, I think. And there's all these alternatives cropping up. Dell and another company at STS had some 5K and X6K alternatives, and they have all additional inputs, which is great on a monitor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I really hope those are successful, because it would be nice to see some more options past the 4K point.
Yeah.
I'm okay with 4K. It works for me. I zoom my monitor at 2x. It's great. It's actual Retina. It's just the UI is a little bigger than I think some people are used to. So
is 5K 2x as well, or what's the situation there on Mac?
So you can do, you can obviously just do 2x at whatever size you want. I think at the expected UI size for the monitor, I think people are used to 5K being 2x. because if you do 4K at 2x, you're effectively doing a 1080p image, just twice resolution.
Yeah.
And it makes the UI a little bigger on screen. You get a little less real estate when you're looking at like the web browser or whatever. But I'm used to it. I like it, and it's a good trade-off for me.
Nice.
But yeah, I know it sounds like once you get a 5K monitor, 27 inches, it's hard to justify going back. And so that's where you get into the whole conversation with people who are like, a Mac user would never get a 4K 27-inch screen. And I was like, well, they would.
I remember back to the days where we had much smaller monitors, 800 by 600 resolution, and
Oh yeah. For years, my computer monitors were like 13-inch. We got a 15-inch, and that was huge.
Yeah, I know. And then one kind of trick I've been using for there's some terrible apps, like I think Hulu's one of the apps that does this. I can't go full screen on my external display on an iPad, so I changed the resolution down as far as it goes to make that window bigger. That's a little hack if you're an iPad user struggling with some
That's a nice little hack.
The bad apps out there. Yeah.
Could you disable Stage Manager? Would it go full screen?
You can't do it on external though.
Oh, okay. So if you're on an external, I haven't used an iPad with an external monitor since the beta period.
Yeah, some apps, and it used to do this, but it stopped doing this, where if you have Stage Manager disabled on the iPad screen, you put Hulu on the iPad screen, it'll just show up like old school external display support would, and has full screen on external and the black whatever on the iPad. But I've noticed some of that is no longer working. But yeah, it's the whole scene over here on iPad. We're learning how externals work.
Yeah. iPad OS 17 hopefully is going to tighten all this up.
Yes, they like to do a big thing and then tighten things up. So hopefully they do enough tightening.
Yes, yeah. Everybody's very, very happy it exists. I think we just the execution. We wanted a little nicer.
Yeah, for sure. And then I want to chat a little bit about subscriptions. You did a video on what subscriptions are kind of worth it. I had a calling because I was going on paternity leave, and which means in my job I don't get income for this period. So I'm kind of like, what can I get rid of? And there was a lot that I was like, I really don't need this, don't need this. Some stuff I held on to. What are kind of the thresholds and tiers for you when you evaluate this stuff?
Yeah, so for me, it's really how much value do I get from the app, whether I want to pay for it or not. So if it's something I use all the time and like there's really no good replacement, or like my life would be meaningfully worse without it.
Yeah.
In terms of computer stuff goes, at least, I'm willing to pay it. I think I'm probably more open to it than the average person. But I think, I think like you mentioned in the video, one of the things that I talked about is like, okay, there's a new number of tiers of subscription style apps. There's some people like the app is a web service. It relies on things. It costs money. Okay, that should be a subscription. Easy.
Yeah.
Like that makes total sense. You can justify it. Like I may not, how much I care about it, whatever. Depends whether I personally will pay. But like, if obviously this costs lots of money to maintain, and if they stopped paying that money, the app would stop working. I think you can justify that pretty well.
Right.
On the whole other end, there's these apps that like have no ongoing costs. They're just like a utility.
Yeah.
Like the example that I used in there was the Canon webcam utility, which is if you want to use your mirrorless camera as a webcam, you can get terrible quality for free.
Yeah.
But you can pay $5 a month to get 1080p video from it. And I was like, why? So that's the other end of it. And those are bad. They're few and far between unless you're like an iOS app. iOS apps have like tons of these like garbage weekly subscriptions that they trick you into. But I think the interesting ground is the middle category where like it may not have any ongoing costs, but the developer's working on it. They're actively updating it, adding features, and they're charging a subscription. And I think those are the ones that you kind of get the most polarization around, because
like I finally got rid of Ulysses. I had signed up for the subscription since they transferred over to subscription, and I realized I'm not really a writer. I've been using it mainly to do the show notes with the links and stuff to get into WordPress.
Yeah.
it's too high for what I'm $30 or whatever. I was even on the cheaper price still from the initial
your grandfather did or whatever. Yeah.
It's like, let me get rid then I was like, let me get rid of that grandfather price and just stop it because I'm not using it that much.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of one. Is like Ulysses uses iCloud for like your document storage, so it's using your own like iCloud storage. They don't have server-side costs there, but they are actively updating it.
Yeah, they are.
It gets new features all the time, and it's a really high-quality app. And I too paid for it for a long time until I moved all my writing to Obsidian, which is free if you want. I think I paid for it at some point, but yeah. So it's just one of those judgment calls. I'm trying to think, but yeah, there was like a huge uproar when Ulysses did this. Like Ulysses users were not happy because they were used to it being paid up front, and now they had to pay regularly, and so it's tricky. It's tricky, right? And if the app wasn't getting updated, then I think it's pretty not good.
Some of my favorite ones are like Pixelmator Photo and Halide have the option to pay a big lump sum. Plex Lifetime has this where you could pay a big lump sum like the old days where you used to pay that kind of amount of money, or you do the subscription. That's a nice middle ground if a developer can make that work.
I think that's absolutely the best way to, if you're doing some sort of app that like someone could just keep using forever, even if you went out of business tomorrow, having some sort of lifetime option is definitely good.
Yeah.
Because then you can just buy it and not worry about it.
Yeah, and that's what I did with Pixelmator, and that's what I did with Halide, yeah.
I actually didn't know Pixelmator had a lifetime option.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Photo does, and I don't even know if the regular one is a subscription at this point. And I'm not sure about their Pro app on Mac, if that has a lifetime, but
I think they're migrating to it this year, might be what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, because the Photo app on iOS definitely has one. And it's not terribly expensive either. You'll pay it off in a couple of years or whatever.
I'm looking it up. Oh, $55 for the lifetime.
Okay, yeah. Which, yeah, I get so much utility out of Pixelmator Photo. Like, charge me $100 for that thing.
Yeah. Well, I also say another app that really does it well, I think, is Spark or Sketch. Sorry, Sketch.
Yeah,
on the Mac, where you can pay $100 a year to use it, and if you ever want to stop your subscription, you can stop. That's fine, and then you just get whatever version of the app you had when you stopped your subscription. You can keep using that app until it stops working on macOS.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And that's Agenda does the same thing. So you can either subscribe for lower cost or just do the upgrade to the premium version. Then you have I think a year's worth of updates, and then you get to keep everything. Then if you want more updates, you pay again, kind of thing. It's just smart. I love that.
I think it's a great way to do it. You don't have to work because like a lifetime license for Sketch would probably be like $500 or something. Like it would be pretty substantial.
Yeah.
But knowing that I can just subscribe, and if I ever decide it's not worth it to me anymore, I can just stop without having to and still use the app going forward. I think that's pretty nice.
Yeah. Do you have an Adobe subscription through work, or do you pay for that one?
I have one through work, and I will never pay for it myself.
There you go. Yeah. The voice isolation thing. How is that going? That's pretty nice, I hear.
Okay, so I plan on putting my audio track through that. So in theory, you've heard it for the last 30 minutes or so already.
Okay.
But it's this awesome new feature of Adobe Podcast. I'll send you a link so you can put in the show notes if you want. But yeah, you just like give it an audio file of someone talking, and it will remove the background noise. It makes them sound like they're talking into a professional microphone.
Nice.
Like shockingly well. Like I did a test where I was standing across the room from my camera, which has a terrible microphone in it. Just filming myself. It sounded just echoey. There was background noise of like the furnace running. It was horrendous. I passed it through this tool, and it sounds like I'm talking into the microphone I'm talking into right now.
Amazing.
Like, it's unbelievable. Like, it's the best AI, machine learning, or whatever this is.
Right.
This seems related to the AI machine learning stuff.
That's really cool.
All the way right now, but like, it's so cool. And I believe it's free to use still. I don't know if, I assume they're going to move it behind the paywall eventually, but yeah, hopefully it's still free to use and people can try it out because it's really rad.
Yeah, I want to test it and compare it to Apple's voice isolation mode, which sounds less ambitious from what this is, for sure.
Yeah, this one, I suspect Apple's is more natural. This one sounds a bit like you're on a podcast.
Yeah.
So it's great for this.
Right.
But there are some cases where, like, if you fed in the audio, it would sound kind of weird because it does truly remove all the, like, ambient noise.
Interesting.
And makes it, you sound like you're in a studio.
Yeah, that's cool. Just for voice, not for singing, right? Or would this be used in singing?
I don't know. I have no idea.
You capture your kids singing some song in the kitchen and send it through that, see what it sounds
that'd
like.
be interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely not brave enough myself to sing and certainly not brave enough to share it online.
That on YouTube, yes. And then Todoist, you've been moving to that instead of Things 3. What's that been like for you?
It's mostly been a curiosity. I've been using Things for effectively as long as Things has been an app. But I get curious about what else is going on out there. And Things 3 feels a little long in the tooth at this point. Like, it's still pretty great, but they don't really add much to it. And as, like, I think more about how I work, like a web component or like at least an API that I can like automate things with is more important. And Things doesn't really have that, which is kind of unfortunate. So I'm just trying out Todoist. It's definitely not as nice to use moment to moment, but there's some really nice stuff with the natural language input. And like I said, being able to easily automate things with it, both like when I mark something done in Todoist, I can trigger something, or when something else happens in the world, I can trigger a task like created in Todoist for myself, which is pretty nice. But
that's cool.
I think I'm just playing around until the inevitable Things 4 or Things Cloud, or I'm convinced. Speaking of subscriptions, I'm pretty confident whatever Things does next will be a subscription, and not the paid upfront that they did now. Because like Things Cloud is like their sync service. Like I was saying, with like ongoing costs, I gave them like $50 like 5-6 years ago. Yeah, and I haven't given them a penny since.
No,
but they've spent money to
anymore.
They haven't. Like I would literally pay. I would happily pay. But I know
Omni
whatever.
Group is they have the option of either or kind of thing at this point. And with the subscription, you get the cloud stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, OmniFocus.
I'm curious. I did an interview a long time ago with Ken Case about OmniFocus 4 is going to release it when the app was done. I've been sitting in that audio for quite a while, so I'm excited to see when that eventually sees the light of day and they've finished that process.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that anymore, but I do hope they have a really great release, because OmniFocus used to be one of the great task managers.
I'm always rooting for them because I do love the company and their apps.
Absolutely. Yeah. It just seems like they're a little bit out of sync with the rest of the market right now.
Yes, a little bit.
Yeah, I just don't know where they fit. So hopefully they nail it.
Yeah, I hope so. And then Letterboxd. I downloaded this app January 1st. I'm starting to catalog the movies I'm watching. I need something for this for TV shows as well. I almost switched the Apple TV app. Did a better job me filtering out the stuff I've watched and like did something with that data because it has it. So this is kind of an interesting app for just cataloging your year of movies. And you can follow different people. How have you found using this app?
This is without a doubt. We talked about Mastodon. This is without a doubt my favorite social network. It's so simple, but like I love movies. I love watching as many movies as possible, and I think that this does a great job. You just follow people. And you can see what they're watching. So whenever I see like one of my friends post like a 5-star review of a movie that I haven't seen, I'm like, ooh, interesting. So I can add that to my watch list. I can see what's popular with all Letterboxd users. And so that kind of gives me an idea for new stuff. But like, I feel like it's hard to keep track of like what movies are coming out and like, especially what smaller movies, are cool and worth your time. And I think Letterboxd just like helps me do that.
So I've been trying to find you on Letterboxd. I go to the search tab, members or HQs. I search your name. Nothing comes up. Is there an easy way to find you on Letterboxd? Like,
yes.
How do you connect with people?
So my username is Matt Birchler, and I'm definitely public. Although I did try to follow you a couple days ago.
Oh, there you are. I had a space. They need to get their search better. I had a space between Matt and Birchler, and you did not show up. So if you're looking for Matt, all one word, and it'll show up. Let me see how I am visible. Let's see. Here's where you can go. I'm not a Patreon person yet in it.
Oh yeah, This is also the sequence you'll go through. Is you'll use the paid service because it's awesome, and then you'll be like, I kind of want to see my stats at the end of the year, and then you pay for the pro version, and then you're like, I really would like to change the movie posters for my reviews, and then you're a patron, and then you're suddenly paying like $40 a year for it.
Yeah. I actually can't find what my username. Oh, here we go. Oh, I am T Chatton on this service, so that should hopefully turn me out.
Sweet. So yeah, I would recommend just following. If you can follow a dozen people or more who are actively watching movies, it just gives you a nice little feed you can open up and find some nice recommendations.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm gonna have to start following some more people because that's always the thing. Like, what movie to watch is a conundrum sometimes.
Yes, I mean, what is a more relatable experience in our time of just scrolling through all the apps? Oh, that could be interesting. That could be interesting, and then never watching anything.
Definitely, I miss the Blockbuster days of just going to the store and looking at what they had.
It's the same vibe, same vibe of like scrolling through here and seeing what's new, seeing what people are liking.
You know,
I love it.
Apple's headset. They should do a VR Blockbuster thing of your collection where you're like going through aisles and paging through. That could be interesting.
It's like a new cover flow.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, that'd be great. Oh boy.
That's the use case. That's the killer use case.
That's the killer use case, yeah. So I think that is it outside of our Last of Us spoiler-filled discussion. Anything else iPad or technology related before we get to that?
No, it was a good potpourri episode.
For those that are bouncing before Last of Us, because they don't get spoiled, that are computer, where should people find you?
Yeah, YouTube is probably the best place these days. Channel's called A Better Computer, and I'm posting there about once a week. Yeah, other than that, so you can always find me on Mastodon. I'm Birchtree at mastodon.social. Again, very long. I pray.
Yes.
Pray Tim has a link in the show notes.
I will.
Yeah. So those are the best places to find me these days.
Cool. So Last of Us.
Yes.
What's your experience with the video game proper?
Okay. So this is good context.
Yeah.
I have played the original game 3 times. Each time they've re-released it.
So you PS3 you started with?
Yep.
Okay. I missed. So and then you played the PS4 version, now the PS5 version.
And and they're all fantastic.
Yeah, I never touched the PS3 version. I started on PS4. I got a PS3 after the fact when PS4 version was already out and a thing. I did the platinum for the PS4 version.
Nice.
I've not done that with PS. So I just finished the PS5 version on Saturday before the show, and then I'm working on Left Behind now.
Ooh, yeah, I've never played Left Behind.
You have not?
I have not.
I would highly encourage it.
Okay.
If you love the base game, you will absolutely love this Left Behind. It's not terribly long. It's maybe, 3 to 6 hours. I forget exactly.
3 to 6 hours is the right length for a video game in your 30s. So,
yeah. And I believe the TV show will cover some of the content in Left Behind.
I think so. Yeah.
And on one of the podcasts, they actually talked about how they can approach the TV show different because they have both content to work with versus in Last Behind Part 1, Riley, a character, is not mentioned at all, I don't think. Or wait, she has a little Firefly tag with her, but
okay.
But they more play with than TV show with that. This story gets to me every single time. I'm always in tears on the prologue. I'm in tears. There's constant moments where I'm just crying of playing this and watching this thing.
Yeah, and like even knowing what's going to happen, right? It's
yes, I've played this game probably 4 times because I played the remastered a couple times. And yeah, it's probably my third or fourth time through it. I'm still crying in the prologue. I know it's going to happen. I there's different moments throughout the game. I know it's coming up. I'm still going to cry. It's still going to get me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was really happy with how the show, well, I guess in general, how the show it's hitting the same beats, right?
Yes.
It's definitely telling the same story as the game. But as someone who's played the game 3 times through, I don't feel bored, and I don't feel like it's just a rehash.
There's new depth created with the time they have here.
Yeah, and like the first 10 minutes is different from the original game. Like in the game, you never leave the house. In this one, yeah.
I love that prologue of fungus. That we're not worried about a pandemic, a viral pandemic, but a fungi pandemic.
Oh yeah, and even that couple minutes, before the other opening.
Yes.
Yeah, there's the 60s where the interview where he's like, all right, your virus is whatever. They'll kill a few of us, but whatever. But these fungal infections, trust me, it's gonna be bad. It's like, oh boy.
Yeah, it was funny in the podcast, official podcast about it. They were talking about, we want to make sure it's not a viral thing because we're sick of that stuff. It's even worse. This would be even worse if this happens.
Okay. And then the sequence after that with Sarah, not just at the house the night of the outbreak.
Yeah, you can see her entire day of outbreak day, and it was a normal day up until it wasn't.
And that. I think the shot that got me the most is the shot, and we're fully in spoilers right now.
Totally,
right?
yes.
Okay, so the shot that I think just gut. I don't know if it was gut punch. It was the one that made me go, oh boy, I'm gonna love the show. Is where she's at the house and with the her neighbors, and she's just going through something on the shelves, going through the movies, and then the old woman in the chair behind her is doing these weird contortions, and it's clear she's infected and. Oh,
yeah.
It's great. It was great tension and just a new thing. New thing. It's the same story, but it's a thing. I didn't know how that scene was going to end. And that was fun.
And so part 2 did you play part 2, I assume, or no?
Yes, I played part 2 and I loved part 2.
I did too. It was fantastic. So the thing they did with part 2 is with the enemies, they're Mike's dead or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So they have you try to sympathize with the other side. In the TV show, they're doing that in great strides. Like you said, the grandma who, you meet this family, you become kind of connected to them. The Federa person, Jewel has a connection with, versus just being this nameless character that gets killed in the game. This is someone that we know isn't not a completely terrible person,
Yeah.
And he gets killed. And you feel more grief over that loss versus in the game. It's,
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is a good thing that they're doing, leaning into what you can do in a TV show versus a game. Is
definitely
you don't. If you're doing a game, you probably don't really want to do the whole day in the life of a teenager before you get to the action stuff.
Yeah.
So but with a TV show, you can do that, and it's not boring. It's engaging just the same.
Definitely.
So they're branching out in those ways, and it really encourages me for what the rest of the show is going to be.
The one moment hit me really hard was the little kid at the beginning. I wasn't sure who that was. It's that's not Ellie, and it wasn't. But it was this kid that had a mark on his leg, and and then, the nicest Federer person of all time talks with this kid and says, we're going to give you toys, your favorite food. And the scan was red. And I, at that point, didn't know if red was negative or positive. And it's okay, they're taking care of this kid. And then the next scene, the most heart-wrenching thing, you see the dead body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see the shoes.
I was sobbing with just that thing. It's just that kid's, they killed the kid. He was infected.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which again, not in the game.
No.
It's the side story thing, kind of just introducing you to the world. But it's also foreshadowing. They introduce the light thing. They don't explicitly say what it is either. You just kind of have to intuit, and it's not the most complex thing in the world. But it's good storytelling where they don't have to do the exposition by like telling you all the things.
Yeah.
They just do the thing. The people in the world know what that means, and like you can tell from like the expression on her face, the one you're talking about who's like trying to calm him down, that it's not good news.
No.
And none of this is actually going to happen. But it's tough, but I mean, that's The Last of Us.
Yeah.
It would be bad if it wasn't, but
Yeah, I love seeing Tess actually get jumped and seeing that expanded upon. Like, we're seeing expansions and things I've wanted to see, and that's so cool. And critics were saying episode 1 was the weak point in this series, which makes me very excited for seeing what we're going to get week to week here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, truly, if this is the worst that it is, then it's going to be a remarkable show.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a huge hit for HBO, too, if it can stay this high quality, because I think the word of mouth will be really good about it.
Yeah, and I'm intrigued I imagine another season would tackle part 2.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, like, how long do they expect this thing to go? Like, is this a mini series, or is it like a show that's going to have at least 2 seasons, and then what do you do after that?
Do they put on a hiatus until the part 3 game comes out? Yeah.
Like, well, season 3 is due. Well, but it's cool because, like, you know, I mean, like Neil Druckmann, who is kind of the creative force behind the games, is also, it sounds like heavily involved in the show. So you can tell.
You can tell.
Yeah. You can tell, and like you can see, like in the like little bits of like interviews I've seen with him, like it seems really rewarding to him to be able to kind of, like we talked about, like flesh out some of the story, do things that maybe didn't make sense in a game environment. It's just rad all the way through.
It is, yeah. And yeah, it's great having the music there. I guess there's a second composer as well for the non-Gustavo composed stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't notice the music. I feel like The Last of Us doesn't have like a very noticeable soundtrack, but like
when it kicks in, it's good.
Yeah, you're not gonna be like humming it as you like go through your day. It's not like the Star Wars theme or anything.
No,
definitely. But like it definitely takes you into that world when you hear whatever the not chorus is, but like with the melody that you hear everywhere.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember back to the other versions of Last of Us. At the very end in the hospital, was there an option to use the doctor's knife against himself in past games? I thought that felt new to me, and I felt that was smart because that's a character we now need to care about with part 2.
Oh, it's a good question. I do not know.
Yeah, that felt new. In the past, I always used the gun or whatever, even when because this time I waited, and I waited last time I played 2, and I didn't have that option last time, I don't think, to turn his knife against him. I'm trying to remember.
Okay. Yeah, I don't recall, but yeah, I don't know.
The tweaks,
there's 5 years between playthroughs, so
yeah.
You know.
It feels like they made some nice tweaks towards the end of the game as well to make it even more emotional in the remake for PS5. Just some very minor things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know people were upset about this game like even existing, but it really seems like they just refined the thing. Like the entire game is just a more finely tuned version of the thing we already had.
And the AI seems smarter and at times a little harder.
Okay.
And they brought the enemies from part 2 that scare the bejesus out of me. The there was a new enemy type introduced in part 2. They don't show up when you're listening, and they showed up in the when in the hotel when Joel's in the watery parts.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that rings a bell.
It does not.
Okay. They're not clickers, but they're not runners. They're kind of in between that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hate those things. Yeah. I'm super excited to see where the series goes. And anything else on Last of Us?
I think everyone should watch it. I think that if you're remotely interested, you should watch it.
Yeah.
I think if you like anything at all, you should watch it. I think it's great.
Yeah, for sure. The very opening, I loved her going to the watch store, her using Joel's money to repair it because you won't do this for yourself.
Yeah.
That was such building on that. It was also interesting that the watch owner's wife, I believe his wife knew about something going wrong before the news. Like, she was watching the news all day or all night when she got home, and nothing on the news until, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if she was like clicking through and just like was on that for a couple seconds and was like, whatever. But they do that in the game as well, where like you just hear things like in the background or like see things on the screen, like the TV, like as the characters are having a conversation where like something's happening, but it's not very clear, and it's kind of like it's going to happen because you bought the game, you saw the trailers.
Yes.
But like it's showing how the characters, it's just kind of passing them by until it like really hits them, and then they have to go, and and then they really go. I like how they recreated in that opening scene, like when they're trying to get out of town.
Yeah.
Like they did the thing where they had like the camera in the car with them, like you do in the game, and you're looking around.
The same T intersection that was in the game.
Yep. And then they added the airplane crash, which I was like, I think that was the moment where I was like, all right, this is really, they spend money on this.
Yeah, in Left Behind, there's an airplane crashed into a mall, and there's like diaries you can look at, like someone was infected on the plane and went down through that. And that accumulation with Sarah getting shot was just heart-wrenching as ever. Like
it hits every time. Like, and like Pedro Pascal does a great job there, like showing the obviously the pain of that moment.
Yeah, the how quickly they can get you attached to these characters in a way that makes you cry is astounding. Like in the game and this, like, I don't know a story that does this as well besides maybe Up and the opening of Up.
Yeah,
it's a different kind of feeling with that.
Yeah, but like especially in a video game, like that's not an emotion you normally feel for any character. And on the rare cases you do, it's like in an RPG where you've been with them for like 50 hours.
Yes.
Certain Final Fantasy games famously. But yeah, like to be in the first, I don't know, is it 15 minutes of the game, 20 minutes of the game, and like to lose a character who you just met.
Yeah.
It's unusual.
Yeah. Oh, I want to say Ellie, from the trailers, I was skeptical that this would be a good fit, but instantly when I saw her performing, it's like, she's nailing this. This is like perfect. Like the voice, the just mannerisms, and she seems to be. And yeah, that was my one fear about by the trailers was just like instantly resolved. It's like, okay,
well, yeah, and I mean she was just she was a revelation on Game of Thrones, so it was I was just like, more of her, please.
Yeah,
she's great.
Yeah,
so I was down for it. I like that the characters aren't necessarily dead lookalikes for the game. Like they're definitely similar, but it's not just like they tried to make them look exactly the same, except for Marlene.
Yeah, and I like the Marlene connection with Ellie. Her explaining just in that moment, I put you there, and like I knew your mom, like, and that was kind of hidden to her up until then, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because in the game, I had the impression that Marlene and Ellie were longtime kind of buddies or friends.
Yeah,
and that's not the case.
That's not what they're, at least not what they're doing in the show. No. But the one thing I really like is that the actress who plays Marlene is the same person who did the voice in the games. So that's the only person who's exactly
super
the
cool.
same.
Yeah, and I guess there will be roles for both Ellie and Joel's voice actors in different roles in this show coming up.
Okay,
which I'm excited for.
That would make sense. It's a good thing to do for them.
Yeah, and the Joel voice actor hosts the official podcast for the show, which is cool. Which is also worth checking out.
I subscribed just a few minutes ago.
Excellent. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, Matt, for your time diving into tech and also one of my favorite video game series of all time.
Anytime, literally anytime. I'm happy to come on.
Excellent. And then once again, check you out on Mastodon, Birch Tree, and Mastodon social.
Birchtree at Mastodon.social. Yep.
Cool. And a better computer. And we will. I kind of want to do a after this TV show has wrapped up to do some kind of special bonus, just all about it. Yeah,
I would love to as well.
Excellent.
Draft me a line.
Thanks again.
Okay, see you then.
Well, as my discussion with Matt, make sure to check out Matt's YouTube channel over at A Better Computer. My thanks to Matt for his time recording this episode, and my thanks to you for your time and attention tuning in. As a reminder, you can support this podcast over at patreon.com/iPadPros or by subscribing in Apple Podcasts. With that, I'll talk to everyone again real soon.